Hari Hari. Hari Rama. Rama Rama Hari Hari Hari. Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Rama Rama Hari 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 Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Rama Rama Hari Hari. Okay. Hare Krishna. Sichas. Ya Dolgen Chitat Prabhupada lilamrita. Now I'm going to read Prabhupada lilamrita. Hari Bol. Okay. How many rounds you done?
How many have I done? 18.
18? Oh, that's good. Okay. All right, so Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presta Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachadeshatarne Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakapatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, here we go, devotees. So, Srila Prabhupada has been, and he's going to continue, describing in detail the drama about Lord Caitanya. By the end of the first hour of their talk, Prabhupada had narrated many scenes from the first half of Lord Chaitanya's life. His teasing the Brahmins by the Ganges at age 5, his civil disobedience movement against the Mohammedan magistrate, his accepting the renounced order at age 24, his last meeting with his beloved mother, his traveling to Puri and touring South India, his meeting and instructing disciples like Sarvabhauma Ramananda Roy and Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. Finally, Prabhupada's morning schedule permitted him to go no further. It was time for him to bathe and take lunch. The next day, they would meet again. At the next session, Hayagriva listened more carefully, and the transcendental scenes came quickly, one after another, as Prabhupada described each scene, speaking the words and thoughts of Lord Caitanya and his associates. Prabhupada seemed to be seeing the scenes enacted before him. He especially became moved when he spoke of Lord Caitanya and Haridas Thakur. The life of Haridas Thakur, Prabhupada said, is that he was born in a Mohammedan family. Some way or other he became a devotee, and he was chanting 300,000 times Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And Caitanya Mahaprabhu made him the Acharya, the authority of chanting. Therefore we glorify him. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Because he was made the Acharya, the authority of chanting Hare Krishna. When Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, Haridas Thakur decided, my dear Lord, you are leaving Navadvip. Then what is the use of my life? Either you take me or let me die. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, why shall you die? You come with me. So he took him to Jagannath Puri. In Jagannath Puri, because he considered himself born of a Mohammedan family, Haridas did not enter the temple. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him a place at Kajinath Mishra's house. There he was chanting, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was sending him prasadam. In that way he was passing his days. And Chaitanya used to come and see him daily. Srila Prabhupada wanted a scene for the passing away of Haridas Thakur. Hayagriva. Is this the same Haridas the Mohammedans threw into the river? Yes, Prabhupada said. Then very casually, Hayagriva mused aloud. So he finally met his end there in the fifth scene. Prabhupada hesitated. Here again, Hayagriva revealed his lack of transcendental knowledge. Talking as though Haridas's passing away was the same as an ordinary man's meeting his end. All right, Hayagriva cued him. What is this particular incident? Prabhupada, the particular incident is significant. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a Brahmin, and he was a sannyasi. According to social custom, he should not even touch a Mohammedan. But this Haridas Thakur was a Mohammedan. And yet at his death, Lord Chaitanya took the body himself and danced. And he put him in the graveyard and distributed prasadam. Because Haridas was a Mohammedan, he did not enter the temple of Jagannath Puri, because the Hindus were very strict. Haridas was a devotee, but he thought, why should I create some row? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appreciated Haridas's humble behavior. Although he had become a devotee, he was not forcibly going to the temple. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself was daily coming and seeing him. While going to take bath in the sea, he will first of all see Haridas. Haridas, what are you doing? Haridas will offer his respect, and he will sit and talk for some time. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will go and take his bath. In this way, one day, when he came, he saw Haridas not feeling very well. Haridas, how is your health? Yes, sir, it is not very. After all, it is the body. Then the third day he saw that Haridas is going to leave his body today. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him, Haridas, what do you desire? Both of them could understand. Haridas said that this is my last stage. If you kindly stand before me. Srila Prabhupada became caught in the intense spiritual emotions of the scene, as if it were happening before him. He closed his eyes. He stopped talking. Then he began again slowly, haltingly. So Caitanya Mahaprabhu stood before him, and he left his body. Prabhupada sighed and became silent. Hayagriva sat staring at the floor. When he glanced up, he saw that Swamiji was crying. Prabhupada quickly summed up a few last scenes and ended his outline. Now you write, he told Hayagriva, and I shall make some addition or alteration. This is the synopsis and framework. Now you can proceed. Hayagriva left the room. The material was lengthy, and whether he would ever write the play was doubtful, but he was thankful to have received this special discourse. Sitting on a bridge table in the student lounge, chanting into a little microphone while his followers played their instruments, Prabhupada began the kirtan at Stanford University. At first there were about 20 students, but gradually more entered the lounge and gathered around. Everyone was chanting. Then suddenly the lounge became transformed as more than 200 Stanford students, most of them completely new to the Hare Krishna mantra, danced and chanted with as much enthusiasm as the most uninhibited Haight-Ashbury crowd. Shoo! Prabhupada led the kirtan for more than an hour. In his talk afterwards, he explained what they'd all just experienced. This Hare Krishna dance is the best process for getting out of this illusion that I am this body. Our society is trying to distribute to the world the priceless gift of the Lord. You did not understand the words, but you still felt the ecstasy to dance. Prabhupada took questions from the audience. Everything proceeded in a standard fashion until someone asked whether college students should respond to the military draft. This is for Vietnam. Prabhupada replied that since they had elected their own government, there was no use complaining if the government told them to go to war. But some of the students, the same students who had chanted and danced only minutes before, began to shout, "No, no!" Prabhupada tried explaining his point, but they raised their voices in anger until the hall became a bedlam of shouting. Finally, Srila Prabhupada picked up his kartals and began chanting again, and the dissenters left. The next day, the Palo Alto Times ran a front page story with headlines and a photo of the kirtan with the heading, "Ancient Trance Dance Features Swami's Visit to Stanford." And this is the report. Hold on there a minute, all you with it people. There's a new dance about to sweep the country. It's called the Swami. It's going to replace the frog, the watusi, the swim, and even the good old barn stomp. Why? Because you can do any old step to it and at the same time find real happiness. You can rid yourself of the illusion that you and your body are inseparable. The chant started quietly, but gained volume as more people joined in. After half an hour, a long-haired youth with 3 strings of red beads around his neck stood up and began to dance to the music. He closed his eyes in ecstasy and held his hands palms up, shoulder high. 2 girls soon followed him. One had a string of bells around her neck. A bearded fellow with a fluorescent pink skull cap joined in, still beating on his tambourine. The Swami cut in a microphone in front of him, and the added volume provoked others to chant and stomp more loudly. A pretty girl in a sari danced as if in a hypnotic trance. A short, dark man, neatly dressed in suit and tie, threw off his shoes and joined in. A young math professor did likewise. A pretty, blonde, 3-year-old girl rocked and swayed in one corner. Suddenly, most of the audience was dancing and chanting. The pace grew faster and faster. Faces streamed with sweat. The temperature soared. Then it all stopped. Unquote. Srila Prabhupada was pleased with the article and asked for some photocopies of it. What are they calling the dance? He laughed. The Swami? Across the top of the kirtan photo he typed, everyone joins in complete ecstasy when Swami Bhaktivedanta chants his hypnotic Hare Krishna. The devotees got Prabhupada an engagement at a YMCA, where the audience consisted almost entirely of children. The devotees had decorated the hall with posters of Krishna and had hung a big sign with the Maha Mantra on it. The children chanted along with Prabhupada during kirtan. Just before the lecture, Gurudas reminded him, maybe the talk should be simple, since they're all between 9 and 14 years old. Prabhupada nodded silently. Is there a student here who is intelligent? Prabhupada began. No one responded. After a moment, a 12-year-old boy, urged by his teachers and fellow students, raised his hand. Prabhupada motioned for him to come forward. The boy wore thick glasses, short pants, and a blazer, and his hair was combed back very neatly. Pointing to the boy's head, Prabhupada asked, "What is that?" The boy almost scoffed at the simpleness of the question. "My head." Prabhupada then pointed to the boy's arm and said quietly, "What is that?" "My arm," the boy said. Prabhupada then pointed to the boy's foot. "What is that?" "My foot," the boy answered, still looking incredulous. "Yes," Srila Prabhupada said, "you say this is my head, my arm, my foot, my body, but where are you?" The boy stood perplexed, unable to answer Prabhupada's simple question. "We say my hand," Srila Prabhupada continued, But who is the owner of my hand? We say my hand. So that means someone owns my hand. But where does the owner live? I do not say I hand. I say my hand. So my hand and I are different. I am within my body, and you are within your body. But I am not my body, and you are not your body. We're different from the body. Real intelligence means to know who I am. Haight-Ashbury's psychedelic shop, a popular hippie gathering place, had extended to Prabhupada many invitations to come and speak. After the mantra rock dance, the hippies there had put a sign in the window, a night of consciousness. Also, in response to the mantra rock dance, they'd opened a meditation room in the rear of their store. But since the hippies at the psychedelic shop were almost always intoxicated, Prabhupada's followers had said that it wouldn't be a good idea for Prabhupada to go. But the hippies kept entreating. Finally, the devotees relented, advising Prabhupada it might be all right for him to go. So one Saturday night, Prabhupada and two devotees walked over to Haight Street to the psychedelic shop. Young people crowded the streets. Hippies sitting along the sidewalk selling hashish pipes and other dope paraphernalia. Homosexuals, wildly costumed hippies with painted faces. Small groups smoking marijuana, drinking, singing, and playing guitars. A typical evening on Haight Street. At the psychedelic shop, marijuana and tobacco smoke hung heavy in the air, mingling with the smell of alcohol and bodies. Prabhupada entered the meditation room, its ceiling and walls covered with madrasas, and sat down. The room was full of hippies, many lying down, heavily intoxicated, looking up at him with half-closed eyes. He spoke in a low voice, but his presence somehow held their attention. Although lethargic, the group was appreciative. And after Prabhupada had finished, those who were still conscious expressed their approval. On Saturday, April the 1st, near the end of his stay in San Francisco, Prabhupada accepted an invitation from Lou Gottlieb, head of Morning Star Ranch, a nudist hippie commune. Morning Star was a bunch of young people living in the woods, the devotees explained to Prabhupada. The devotees there had spiritual aspirations. They grew vegetables and worshipped the sun. They would hold hands and listen to the air. And naturally, they were involved in lots of drug taking and free sex. When Lou came in the morning to pick up the Swami, they talked, and Prabhupada gave him a rasgulla, a sweet made of bite-sized balls of curd, simmered in sugar water. After a few minutes together in Prabhupada's room, they started for Morning Star, 60 miles north of San Francisco. Lou Gottlieb, I told Swamiji to fasten his safety belt. He said no. He said Krishna will handle it or something. So on the way out, I was showing off all my vast erudition in having read a biography of Ramakrishna. That's when Bhaktivedanta gave the best advice to the aspirant I ever heard. We were talking about Ramakrishna and Vivekananda and Aurobindo and this and that. So he said, you know, putting a gentle hand on my knee, when you have found your true path, all further investigation of comparative religion is merely sense enjoyment. Unquote. Sitting in a forest of redwoods, more than 200 feet tall, Morning Star Ranch occupied what had once been an egg farm. Some of the land had been cleared for farming. There were a few tents, some unsubstantial little huts, a couple of tree houses, but the only decent insulated building was Lou's place, an old chicken house. The commune had about 100 full-time members, with the number of residents rising to as many as 300 on the weekends in warm weather, when people would come out to work in the garden or just walk around naked and get high. Prabhupada arrived at 1 p.m. on a beautiful sunny day. He first wanted to rest, so Lou offered his own house. Walking to Lou's place, Prabhupada noticed a few nude men and women hoeing in the garden. One of the workers, a short, stocky young man, Herbie Bresek, stopped his work in the garden and came to greet the Swami. Herbie, Lou Gottlieb introduced us. We were planting potatoes at the time. He said, "This is Swami Bhaktivedanta." I came out of the garden and shook Swamiji's hand. I said, "Hello, Swami." He asked me, "What are you doing?" I told him that I was just planting potatoes. He then asked me what I was doing with my life. I didn't answer. After resting for a few minutes, Prabhupada was ready for the kirtan. He and Lou went to a hilly pasture where the hippies had placed a wooden seat for Prabhupada before a bower of wild flowers arranged like a band shell. Prabhupada took his seat and began chanting. The commune members, all of whom had been anticipating the Swami's visit, gathered eagerly for the group meditation. Mike Morrissey. Some people had clothes on, some people didn't. Haribol. Some were dancing around, but Swamiji wasn't looking at our bodies. He was looking at our souls and giving us the mercy we needed. Unquote. The kirtan was well received. One of the members of the commune was so enthralled by the kirtan that he decided to put on his clothes and go back to San Francisco with the Swami. Prabhupada spoke very briefly, and then he prepared to leave, shaking hands and exchanging courtesies as he walked to the car. Although Srila Prabhupada hadn't spoken much philosophy, his kirtan left a deep impression on the hippies at Morning Star. While leaving, he had told one of the young men, "Keep chanting this Hare Krishna mantra here." And they did. And actually, it's not mentioned here. It'll be mentioned, I'm sure, at some point. But Tamal Krishna was there. Tamal Krishna became Tamal Krishna Goswami. And, Tamal Krishna Goswami became pretty much the most influential disciple of Srila Prabhupada's. Yeah. So he was there. And he was really affected. We'll probably read as we go on about that. He was really affected by it. Lou Gottlieb. The Swami was an extremely intelligent guy with a job to do. There was no sanctimony or holy pretension. None of that eyes lifted silently to the sky. All I remember is just a very pleasant, incredibly safe feeling. There's no doubt that the Maha Mantra, once you get the mantra into the head, it's there. It never stops. It's in the cells. It awakens the DNA or something. Shortly thereafter, half of the people at Morning Star got seriously into chanting. Those that did were extremely sincere God seekers. Their aspiration was 1,000% sincere, considering the circumstances in which they were found. They were all dopers, that's for sure, but they definitely gave that up once they got in touch with the Maha Mantra. Okay, so now Prabhupada's back in San Francisco, but he's just about to leave back to New York. His top cloth wrapped loosely around his shoulders. Prabhupada stood a last moment by the open door of the car and looked back in farewell to the devotees and the storefront temple. It was no longer a mere storefront, but had become something worthy, new Jagannath Puri. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had asked him to come here. Who among his godbrothers could imagine how crazy these American hippies were, hallucinating on drugs, crying out, "I am God." So many girls and boys, unhappy, mad, despite their wealth and education. But now, through Krishna consciousness, some were finding happiness. The first day he had arrived, the reporter had asked him why he'd come to Haight-Ashbury. Because the rent is cheap, he had replied. His desire was to spread the movement of Lord Caitanya. Why else would he have come to such a dilapidated little storefront, to live next to a Chinese laundry and digger's free store? The reporters had asked if he were inviting the hippies and bohemians to take to Krishna consciousness. Yes, he had said, everyone. But he had known that once joining him, his followers would become something different from what they had been before. Now the devotees were a family. If they followed his instructions, they would remain strong. If they were sincere, Krishna would help them. Lord Jagannath was present, and the devotees would have to worship him faithfully. They would be purified by chanting Hare Krishna and following their spiritual master's instructions. Prabhupada got into the car, accompanied by some of his disciples, and a devotee drove him to the airport. Several carloads of devotees followed behind. At the airport, the devotees were crying, but Prabhupada assured them he would return if they would hold a Ratha Yatra festival. You must arrange a procession down the main street, he told them. Do it nicely. We must attract many people. They have such a procession yearly in Jagannath Puri. At this time, the deity may leave the temple. He would have to return, he knew, to tend the delicate devotional plants he had placed in their hearts. Otherwise, how could he expect these neophytes to survive in the ocean of material desires known as Hate Ashbury? Repeatedly he promised them he would return. He asked them to cooperate among themselves. Mukunda, Shamsunda, Gurudas, Jayananda, Subal, Gaurasunda, Hayagriva, Haridas, and the girls. Only 2.5 months ago he had arrived here at this very terminal, greeted by a throng of chanting young people. Many were now his disciples, although just barely assuming their spiritual identities and vows. Yet he felt no compunctions about leaving them. He knew that some of them might fall away, but he couldn't stay with them always. His time was limited. Srila Prabhupada, the father of 2 small bands of neophytes, tenderly left one group and headed east, where the other group waited in a different mood, a mood of joyful reception. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.